For rough and tough action, it's All-Star Wrestling, Saturday night at 11:30 on Channel 7.
The publicity department at Paramount Pictures once described Sterling Hayden as the Viking god, along with many other names that movie flacks dream up. But all along there was another Sterling Hayden, a writer, a thinker, a sailor, a dreamer, and you'll meet that Sterling Hayden on tonight's edition of Tomorrow, Coast to Coast, coming up right now. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, here in our studio in New York, and thank you for watching us across the country tonight. As I said last night in closing the program, I think that of all of the hundreds of people that have come through this turnstile over the past 8 years, none has generated more response on the part of the viewing audience and the studio audience than Sterling Hayden. Most of you, I think, have read his books. He completed his autobiography back in 1963. It was called The Wanderer. He had a marvelous novel out in 1976 called Voyages, and he is a man who, it is a pleasure to sit and watch his mind at work, and I'm very happy that he is here with us tonight to bring us up to date on the many activities of Sterling Hayden, who is far more than just another Hollywood actor. Most of you know Sterling Hayden from his work in films. He's appeared in Dr. Strangelove, The Godfather, The Long Goodbye, 9 to 5, many other pictures. But he is a gentleman who would much rather watch the world go by on a barge in France than earn a couple of $100,000 making mundane motion pictures. Please welcome back a man who, thank God, will never grow up, Mr. Sterling Hayden. Sterling Hayden, ladies and gentlemen. Look, you know,
well, thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome for that. I think you've had your hair trimmed.
Never grow up, right?
No, never grow up. Don't put pockets in our pants, my friend. It helps the world. Now, this man is one of the few that we have on who will not do what is called the pre-interview, where the staff talks to the guest beforehand and Tom has some idea of what's coming up. So when he comes out here, I've got a little list, but it never makes any sense at all. Why don't you like to pre-discuss what we're going to do?
You know, I called back yesterday and said that for once I should be a little unselfish and think, what would you like to do, you know? Because I thought I would have done it either way. I think what happened the first time we were together, as I recall, we met right on the air.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, and away we go, huh?
Yeah.
So I felt, well, we got to know each other pretty well.
Yes, we did.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to fill in the gaps, won't we?
All right. Now, the last time you were here, you had just come back from the funeral of Tito.
Right.
In Yugoslavia. And you were preparing to write some articles for the Rolling Stone magazine. Now, I have looked back through the Rolling Stone, Sterling, and I can't find the articles. What the hell?
No, well, obviously the answer is I didn't deliver.
Yeah.
So the story of my life. Sometimes it pays not to deliver.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oddly enough. Yeah. And I wrote it 3 or 4 times, but somehow it didn't ring true to me. It was true, but it didn't seem right, you know. So obviously I never sent it in. Don't know why, because I felt it strongly enough.
And then you were preparing to go off to France for a year and live on a barge and kind of go down.
Yeah, for part of the year.
Did you do that?
Yes.
Where'd you go?
What year was that?
That was last year. Are you all right? I mean,
yeah, I'm fine.
Are you with us tonight? You're on the planet.
I'm right with you.
Okay, all right.
I thought it was 2 years ago, actually. No, Tito, of course. Yeah. No, this summer went over to a little town in the middle of France called Saint-Jean-de-Lone, a river called the Saône, and went up Rhone-Rhine Canal to a town called Besançon, so forth and so on. Spent about 3 months there.
Well, I mean, I got 30 minutes or so here, so I'd like a little of the and so forth and so forth. What do you do on the barge? Just sit and look at the land and the people all day long, or do you... Obviously, you didn't write because you never got the articles finished.
Yeah, but there are other things to write, too, you know. I'm working on a book, and the question is very good, though, because I guess a barge is not the best place in the world to work because it's so stimulating in and of itself, you know, if one loves ships. Because as Stevenson said, it's to travel and to stay at home at the same time. So you have the best of both worlds. And when you tie up in a town, like I was 7 or 8 years in Paris, in the middle of Paris, it was like an island in the middle of Paris, you know, and yet people are going by all the time, which people like ourselves rather relish, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And so that sort of got in the way of the writing too, you know, because a lot of people going by.
Now, the book that you're working on is another autobiography.
You might say it's...
Well, I mentioned that you completed one, I think, in 1963, The
Yes.
Wanderer.
Yeah.
And one would think that when one writes one's autobiography, that's more or less kind of it, you know, that
Yes.
we don't come back and say, well, here's my second autobiography.
I apologize for that.
But you felt maybe you left something out or experienced something else, and therefore the need to write this second book.
Well, my friend, I think, at the risk of sounding a little immodest, which I do not mean to do, I think as life progresses for some of us, it gets more intense. That first, shall we say, volume ended in 60. When I did something I'd always wanted to do, right after that, which of course was not in the first book, write. So there was that. It changed, in a way, it's breaking your life in half and beginning something else.
How does it all look different to you now from the way it looked when you finished that book in
I think mostly it looks... Would you not agree? Everything is much more intense with us now, isn't it? I mean...
More serious, yeah?
Oh, more beautiful, more agonizing. I cry more. I laugh more. I feel more. I see things... I don't know. I think the glory of getting old.
Isn't that the truth? And would you ever want to be 25 years old again?
No.
And go through all that that we all had to go through to get... Well, I'm not quite as... I haven't gone through quite as much as you've gone through. But
well, I don't
it's
know.
getting deep, I'll tell you.
Yeah, but it's... I think we get... it seems odd to say, but we certainly feel more passion and more of the glory of life and the agony. I mean, what's happened in the last... Should we say 36 hours? I think when I was 25, as you say, or when you were perhaps. Well, we know what's going on is cataclysmic with Sadat, with the world. But my Lord, I mean, now it's almost more than you can take.
As badly as I felt when John Kennedy was killed, and I felt badly, I felt worse yesterday. I felt more deeply about it, and I felt that it was more, to use your word, cataclysmic, an event. And maybe it's because of the perception of years now that one begins to accumulate. But I mean, I couldn't believe it when I heard this news yesterday.
And we can't even now, can we? I mean, I read page 8 and 9 of the Times today, as well as the first page, and my heavens, I mean, one could read that for weeks, you know, and try and think, here we go, you know. I mean, we don't know where we're going, but
look at this year. Reagan shot, the Pope, the Pope shot, and Anwar Sadat killed. Do you ever think that maybe we're just determined to blow ourselves apart?
Well, don't we all sort of think that? I think somehow that's one reason that I don't feel too guilty about being irresponsible in a way. I think unless one is prepared and able to take a participating role in events, then we might as well haul off and enjoy it, you know, and try to make other people happy and laugh and have a good time.
What do you think happens to us when we die? Is it all over, do you think? Is that it? Or
you know,
where do we go? I'll be damned on that one, but where do
we? We both are.
Yeah.
Oh, my, we've got company, I see.
Yeah.
No, frankly, I don't know. I've never thought much about it. I've never thought much about it.
I would think a man who has been through your experiences, you with the OSS and the war, then through all the motion picture and all that monkey business, you know, all that baloney that you go through in this business, and then wandering around the world and looking at people and observing events, that maybe you'd kind of think about, is this it?
Maybe it just seems so intense now that the other is, I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing it's not. It's not a rehearsal.
It's not a rehearsal, and it ain't dull.
No, never dull. Nancy, I have a woman here, Nancy Friday, and every now and again we talk about fantasies, sexual fantasies. And one night she said to me, "What is your great fantasy?" I said, "A dull moment." I would like one dull moment.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Why would you want that?
Well, because sometimes it goes so fast, you can't keep up with it.
Yeah, maybe that's why we drink. I don't know.
Sure.
I think it is.
You got that straight. We'll be right back with Sterling Hayden after these announcements.